hey, come on in. Let's go talk about pocket knives. I got a couple of knives that were sent to me by a viewer. It's Michael from Seymour, Tennessee. We have a Schrade Oldtimer 8 OT. Main blade is tipped, misshapen a little bit, but I think it's still usable. The problem is there's no snap at all because the spring for that main is broken. So we'll look at replacing that. As well, he had a knife here. I think it's an Elk Ridge, so it's an import. It has wooden handles that look like they have a wrap, a kind of a camouflage pattern, sort of a sticker, and they were just glued in place. The glue had come off, so we'll re-glue them. We probably, I think I will go ahead and drill out the center pin and at least have one pin holding them as well, and we'll get that fixed up for him. We should be able to do it without taking that knife completely apart. So thank you for joining me. Hang out for the fun, and we'll see what we can do with these knives. All right, I'm going to start with the 8OT, and we'll take her apart. And of course my big hands are in the way on this shot. I should have worn my little hands that day, but I only had the big ones with me. And I zeroed that one just right. The head of that brass pin is still left on the drill bit, but I drilled through it to the body, so the pin should come out easily now. Again, I was trying to be very careful with this because we are preserving these handles. We're not replacing them, and I did not want to mess them up. And you see how easily these handles unclip? That's how a Schrade knife is supposed to come apart. In a bit, you can compare it to the donor knife and see the difference. All right, so we'll discuss replacement parts here. This is going to be my donor knife. I like this knife. It's a Craftsman, and it's one of their Eagle series. As you can see, we've got a bolster missing there, which would be no problem to fix in and of itself, but the main blade is worn down to a toothpick, and the coping blade, or sheep's foot blade rather, is rounded out. The end, it was tipped, and so the end is rounded off on that one. So really the only good part on this is my spade blade, which I don't need on this knife, and my springs. So since there are so many problems with this one, it would take more to fix than what the knife is worth. We'll use that as our donor knife. When I was drilling the pin, I was very careful not to damage the handles. Now that I'm pulling with these pliers, I'm careful not to pry against the handle when I'm pulling this pin out. That's easy to do, but even though I don't plan on reusing these handles right now, it's always a good idea to form a habit of being careful, of not prying against things that you might damage them. If you practice doing it on things that don't matter, you're more likely to get it right on things that do matter. Now you see the difficulty I have in getting these handles apart. That's because this knife was borderline abused. It had a lot of gunk and dirt and grease built up inside of it. We would say this knife has been rode hard and put up wet. But it caused a lot of rust and gunk and things inside the knife, and even the keyways that the handles slide to, through to unsnap is so full of crud that it's hard to get apart. Now I'm comparing the good spring to the broken spring to make sure they're identical before I try to put it in the knife. I wanted to clean this donor spring by hand rather than use the wire wheel on the drill press because I wanted to leave more of the patina there. I didn't want to have one bright, shiny looking spring and the original spring be dulled. So I was trying to make the match somewhat. I tried the wire brush at first by hand. That proved insufficient. So we just did some scraping, sanding, whatever it took to try to clean this spring up a little bit before we put it on the knife. Now I'm comparing that original rivet that I cut to the center pin that I took out of the knife. And the center pin is the same diameter. It already has a head on one side that's pretty close to what we need. So I'm going to use that to make the new rivet. I'm using two feeler gauges that I've taped together to get the length of this rivet just right. This is the one I made before on the first knife where I made a Swindon rivet, and I checked this one before I cut it, and it's still correct. The two feeler gauges are a 30 1/1000 and a 28 1/1000. So taped together, that should come to 0.58 thousandths, or if you use metric, it is a 0.75 millimeter and a 0.70 millimeter, which should give you 1.45 millimeters. Well, the handle's clipped very easily onto that new rivet, but now on the old rivet, I'm having some trouble, so I probably bent that new one just a little bit. That could definitely cause this issue, but a few taps of the hammer seats these back in place again. Now I'll use my small vise to compress these springs, take the tension off of them so I can get that center pin in place. Now I will have to adjust the small blades a little bit. What that's doing is sliding the second spring, the back spring, right and left until the hole lines up as close as I can get it. Then we'll sharpen that pin, put a little bit of oil on it, and it should go right in there. To prevent damage to the handles from the file, I'm using my patented file guide, which is my thumb. So if any of you do this at home, you owe me $1. And the last thing I need to do on this knife is I'm going to file the kick down just a little bit on that main blade. Since the main blade was misshapen, the tip is sitting proud, so we're going to try to lower that just enough to make the knife safe in the pocket. And the last thing I need to do on this knife is I'm going to file the kick down just a little bit on that main blade. Since the main blade was misshapen, the tip is sitting proud, so we're going to try to lower that just enough to make the knife safe in the pocket. But this pin is proving to be especially stubborn. So I've managed to get the end of the spring just below the liner on each side of this knife. With the spring tension pulling it down, now the pin does not line up with the holes in the liners. I can't drive it out either direction. I used my trick with a razor blade over a device to cut this pin. I thought I recorded that footage, but I must not have hit the record button hard enough. It didn't take. So I don't have footage of me doing that, but this is immediately afterward. Now with that pin cut, I can pull these springs out one at a time and just get the little pieces of pin out, and we should be good to go. I plan on drilling through these handles one at a time, just placing it against the knife, drilling through from the other side, put the other handle on, and do the same thing from the opposite side. Here I realized I left one of the springs in the knife, and the spring tension would push my drill bit out of place. So we're going to open that up, and then the challenge is keeping these handles in place. They want to slide around. So I'm going to use some clamps, but I'm going to clamp them from what I would call the top and bottom of the knife, or from the sides edges of the knife. If I can get the clamp to stay on there we go. We'll get that clamp to try to hold it in place, keep it from sliding around so I can drill the hole true. So I'll use my diamond coated bead reamer to angle that hole a little bit, just make it larger on the outside than it is on the inside, chamfer it if you would. That way when I pin the brass pin, it'll swell more on the outside and it'll help hold that handle in. The pin can't slide out in either direction. I'm getting ready to glue these handles on, so of course I'm putting gloves on. These are large size gloves, but I still have a hard time getting them on. You know what to say about people with big fingers. We also have big nostrils. Anyway, aside from that, try to keep the glue off her hands and we'll get these handles glued in place, pinned in place, and we're almost finished with this knife. I'm being a bit more sparing with the glue than I normally do because these handles are different. I can't clean up the handles afterwards with a sander, so normally if I have globs of glue that drip out around the edges, it's not a problem. We'll sand and polish that off. But on this knife, I can't do that. Remember, these handles have a very, very thin sticker like of plastic over them with this camouflage pattern, so I don't want to destroy that. As well, there's little holes in the handle liners. I don't want any of the glue dripping down through that. So I'm being very sparing with the glue, spreading it out as thin as I can. Once I get this handle in place, I will clean off any excess glue that squeezes out with a damp rag. Even the water helps to set this glue, so that'll just help it cure faster. But we'll try to clean it up best we can because that after it dries, there's really nothing I can do. I'm going to go ahead and pin the pin in this knife while the glue's still wet. Then we'll clamp the ends just to hold them straight, let the glue cure, and this knife should be done. Okay, well, here is our rundown, kind of a final showing on these knives, let you see what they look like. The Schrade Old Timer, the 8OT, turned out pretty good. It doesn't have the snap on that main blade that I wanted it to have. It opens and closes, but it's not a real good snap, not like I want. This blade does. It's a good, not a good closing snap, but the blades are fitting in there pretty tight. This blade has very good snap. Now, what I think is the cause of it, because it doesn't feel like that it has to do with the anything being too tight here. This is the end where I put the Swindon rivet in, or made a Swindon rivet for it. And I think maybe the head is a little too large or something, and it fit in there, but it's probably got these handles offset just a little bit, and it's putting pressure up here because it feels like there's just pressure on the blade itself, even though I did not do anything to that Swindon rivet other than take it out and put it back. I think it's kind of got those handles just slightly off kilter, but it works good. There's no issues with that. Just it doesn't snap quite like I wanted it to, but it does work. This one is a little rough on the closing snap on the sheep's foot, but only because it's got some blade rub against the other blades. When they're out of the way, yeah, we have good snap with it. Just it's hard to pack 3 blades into an area that small. But anyway, so that one turned out pretty well, especially considering how quick and easy a repair it was. The Elk Ridge, everything turned out great with it. Of course, I couldn't smooth the transitions on the handles like I normally do, because these handles, if you'll remember, they're wood, and it feels like a very soft wood, not a hard wood. And then it's wrapped with this camouflage pattern. It looks almost like a mossy oak or something. I don't know if it's a name brand pattern or not, but something similar to that. It's almost like a sticker that's covering them. So, once I got it in place, I couldn't do any glue cleanup or anything. I had to clean up the glue before it dried. Could not smooth any of my transitions. I've got, see, a little thin film of glue right there. It's just a shiny spot though. But this one, this one works. You just can't do any polishing or anything on that. Once it's there, it's there with those type handles. I would have loved to have rehandled it, but that's not what the customer wanted. They just wanted the original handles back on it. And with that pin going through the handles, that should really help to keep them on there and not come off again like they did before. But a very quick and easy repair. I was very pleased with it. Again, it's not perfect, but I have so few that turn out perfect. And a lot of this is not just a thing of skill, but I'm also trying to use more basic tools. I could use the drill press a little more. I could build some little things to clamp pieces in there so they're perfectly level, drill a little straighter. But I'm trying to show how to do knife repair with just basic hand tools. Tools that I make or tools that I add in, and I'm trying not to do, get too fancy, because again, a lot of us, most of us probably don't have a lathe, a 3D printer, a milling machine, or things like that. And those of us that don't have that type of equipment, we can still do great things with knife repair with just some basic tools. And that's what I try to show on my channel. Just a guy with some basic tools, with a little bit of time in the shop, who's having fun with a hobby. And I hope you have fun watching this channel. Thank you for joining me. May God bless you all. Goodbye.